but this is my third time trying to record this. I have talking notes that I'm going to be checking periodically to make sure that I don't miss anything as I fill you guys in on the past couple years. Now, I know it's been a couple years, and I'm sorry. Life got away with me. So, I guess I'll start at 2018 again. um, so, last time I was on here, I had announced a pregnancy. I ended up staying down with my aunt in Orange Beach, Alabama, around 3 months pregnant. My family members felt like it'd be good for me to learn how to be self sufficient from her. Um, so I had a great job down there. I was a hostess at Luna's Eat and Drink. Orange Beach, Alabama is a vacation destination. So I got to meet people from all over the United States. There was a little girl who wanted one of our stuffies, but her parents told her that she couldn't get one because they couldn't afford it right now. So I took my tips and I bought it for her. And just seeing how she lit up and how her parents were so grateful, it made my freaking day. So after that, I also had my first concert that I ever went to, only one I've been to so far. It was Miranda Lambert, and I believe it was the band Perry. Loved it. I ended up coming back because my aunt was a bartender and she could not have me and the twins down there. I was about 5 months pregnant at the time. I had already spent my 18th birthday down there. But in Alabama, you're not an adult until you turn the age of 19. So I miscarried on the flight back. I was at my layover in Chicago. I gave birth in their bathroom and called my mother and my grandmother bawling because I just lost my babies, you know? Anybody would be a wreck from that. So I missed the first flight back from Chicago, from my layover because of everything. So I got on the second one and made my way home. Ended up at the hospital. They couldn't see anything. They didn't see any signs of pregnancy because I had literally just miscarried, and the hospital from where I'm originally from, there's a reason it's called Medieval Medical Center. Yeah. Which there's another one that you'll understand more later on. But so I got sent home. I ended up going on a diet that honestly probably wasn't good for me, especially right after a miscarriage and with all of that. I only had one day a week that I was able to actually go hang out with friends because I was busy with apprenticing my stepfather with woodworking as well as school. But ultimately, my stepdad and I had a falling out, so I ended up moving in with my boyfriend at the time. We'll just call him Young. So, after moving in with him again, I ended up pregnant again. and made about a month to 2 months in and miscarried at work. I was working as a volunteer at Ghost Lake, which is kind of like a haunted amusement park thing they do. Then Young started to spiral. He started to become a really bad significant other. So I left him and ended up babysitting our roommate's kids while he wasn't around. He went and was doing his own thing, and he I was still living with his mom, and his mom's boyfriend stayed with me when I was babysitting. The one time he put on Deadpool. I can't watch Deadpool anymore because of this. He raped me and then pinned it all on me, making it seem like it was my fault that I wanted it, and I didn't. I saw him as a dad. So nobody believed me when I came out about it, and except for the people that were our roommates. So when they moved out, they took me with them, and I ended up meeting my eldest's father. We'll call him Joseph. So he was the father of my friends that I ended up living with, the ones that were roommates. He was the father of her eldest daughter. And they didn't want me being with him, and they just did not feel like it would be a safe place for me. Well, in hindsight, I probably should have listened, but if I had listened, I wouldn't have my eldest child. So I ran away with him. We were homeless, and I ended up pregnant again. And because I was homeless, the school I went to had a rule that if, no matter how old you are, if you do not have somebody to sign and say they are responsible for you, and if you do not have an address, you cannot go to school there. So they forced me to drop out December of my senior year because I was homeless and because nobody would say they're responsible for me at the age of 18. So going into 2019, Joseph and a woman gaslit and manipulated me into thinking I was adopted and that she was my actual mother. Through them, I ended up meeting my older brother, half brother. And Joseph and I ended up getting handfasted, which is basically a day and a year worth of marriage without the legal paperwork. And that was the day after I had a miscarriage of the pregnancy that I found out I was pregnant in 2018 with. After that, I ended up going inpatient mental health because I was not in a good place, as you can imagine, after how many miscarriages I had and just in general. After they also, when they made me drop out of high school, they made me lose my full ride to my first choice in college to study baking, pastry arts, and business. So they completely screwed up my entire life plans. When I got out of the hospital, I spent a couple days at home, and then I felt like I was pregnant, And I went to the hospital and they told me I wasn't pregnant. I had a cyst on my right ovary. So a few weeks passed, and it was 2 weeks actually passed. And I had it all planned out on how I was going to end my life, and that it was going to be that night. But I didn't want to die with a UTI, and I kept feeling like I had to pee, and I couldn't pee. Like, no matter how hard I tried, I could not. So I ultimately ended up uh, going into the ER thinking I had a UTI, fully expecting them to tell me that. But the doctor came in after they ran their tests and told me, good news and bad news. Bad news, you're going to be dealing with this for a while. Good news, congratulations, you're pregnant. Come to find out, the cyst they saw at the time I went to the ER before this was my eldest child. They called my eldest a cyst, so I always say that's a funny looking cyst. Let's see. I ended up living in a tent uh, in an area that was surrounded by copperheads. I had no idea originally. Lucky I didn't get bit. Then we moved down to where I am now. And I was in and out of labor from 3 months on during this pregnancy. But all of Christmas Day, the baby did not move at all. So I went into the hospital that night, and they were going to send me home because he moved while on the monitor. I told them, no, something's wrong. You're keeping me. Luckily, I did, and I advocated for myself because 3 o'clock the following morning, the baby's heart rate dropped to 65. So they started inducing me. It took all of the 26th and part of the 27th to get me to where I was ready to give birth. And I remember on the 27th them pulling the woman who was using me as a pseudo daughter and Joseph onto the other side of the curtain. And I remember hearing them say, if we have to save somebody because I have a feeling something's going to go wrong, which one do you want us to save? And Joseph said, you saved my son, because prior to that, all he had was daughters. So the woman that was using me as a pseudo daughter said, no, you saved my daughter. She can have more kids, but there is only one her. Luckily, the doctor was able to save me and my son both. He ended up being a rapid descent, rapid delivery. So he hit my pelvic bone on the way out. He had the cord wrapped so tight around his neck that he was purple. How they didn't catch that on the ultrasound, I have no idea. But I was bleeding out. And because it was the end of 2019, it was during the time nobody was really donating blood. I have one of the most common blood types, so it was pretty bad that they couldn't find mine. But if it wasn't for the doctor, I would not be here. She was so quick to act for both me and my son. And then we kept having false allegations called on us from CYS. Then in 2020, my eldest ended up having RSV at a month old. When he first started to get sick, I called off work because I was also starting to catch it, and I didn't want to leave my baby with him being sick. So I went to pick up my paycheck after I started to feel a little better, and because I knew that my oldest kiddo was with the woman that was helping me through postpartum depression and actually helped me a lot because Joseph did not help at all. So they told me that it looked bad on me and that my work should come before my child, basically. So I ended up quitting there because my children will always come before any job. My children come before anything. Joseph ended up convincing me to move back to my hometown. Uh, During that time, I go through multiple jobs until I found one that I really liked. It was night shift at McDonald's. So I was the only one working the grill, only one working the fryers, and actually preparing the food. Um, on my days off, I was babysitting, uh, and I was dropping off uh, the child I was babysitting, and Joseph called me and he told me my brother died, and he did not sound like he cared at all. So my phone dropped out of my hand and I was just bawling. Like I was a complete and utter wreck. Um, so I went home and I started to drink, trying to numb the pain, smoking cigarettes left and right. Like I was chain smoking. I was just pounding down drinks. And I had a bad feeling. I felt like something was wrong. So I kept telling Joseph, go check on the baby. Something's wrong. I don't feel right. I feel like something's wrong. And he just kept telling me, no, the baby's fine. So finally I said, enough is enough. I'm going to check on this baby. It was 15 minutes worth of going back and forth. So I went and I touched the baby and he was ice cold. He had stopped breathing in his sleep. Luckily, the people I was living with knew him in CPR, and were able to bring him back. He ended up in the hospital. They hooked him up to a heart monitor that he had to be on for an entire month. We ended up moving in with a friend who was actually there the day that happened, and his girlfriend. And his girlfriend and Joseph ended up having an affair with one another. And I found out that Joseph was also doing that with pretty much any woman he could convince to sleep with him. Uh, so I ultimately ended up having an affair with my friend that we were living with because I'm very much eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So, and during all this time, Joseph is verbally, emotionally, and physically abusing me. I was stitched up after giving birth, and he would not take no for an answer. I ended up popping all my stitches. So, I guess also sexually in a way as well. Um, so my friend ended up stabbed one night as I was getting ready for work, and I asked Joseph, "Are you staying home from work or am I, so that somebody can be here with the kids?" Because we also had two of his daughters at the time. He said he would, so I left for work, and a little while later, uh, that evening, I was picked up from work by a police officer, being told that Joseph was being arrested and that I needed to come home and take care of my kids. So I ended up giving the daughters back to their mothers. Um, and then I ended up being accused of stealing money from my friend and his girlfriend's son, who was only a couple months older than my son, which I would never steal from a kid. That's not right. That's not okay. So I had actually found out I was pregnant that day. This is the second time I was pregnant after my son, but both times I ended up miscarrying. This time it was because I was punched in the stomach. because I slammed the door because I was mad because I was getting kicked out with my child, even though I didn't do it. And my friend's girlfriend's sister started coming at me. So I pushed her, and she ended up punching me in the stomach. I don't remember anything after her punching me except when I came back. Like, I didn't faint or anything. I just remember coming back to my senses and seeing blood soaked down to my ankles and my pants. But I ended up uh, moving back down here. Mind you, while I was being abused by Joseph, I continued to try and leave him, and the three things he went through was, the first one was, if I left him, he was going to kill himself. Then it was, if I left him, he was going to take the baby. I'd never see the baby again. Then it was, he ended up faking a phone call from a doctor saying that he had stage 3 pancreatic cancer. So finally, he got arrested. It was my way out. I moved back down here to where I am now with the woman who helped me through the postpartum depression. I ended up raped. And during the time, I also had a friend with benefits. And when I found out I was pregnant, my instant thought was, what if it's from when I was raped? And the woman had offered to buy me Plan B if I could not carry the pregnancy, but if I could, then if I could not raise the baby, she would for me. She always thought black babies were cute anyway. She always wanted one. So there was that. And then I ended up realizing it could also be from my now ex-friend with benefits. Then I ended up dating someone who was old enough to be my grandfather. Not a good move on my part. Move into 2021. That March, I ended up meeting my now fiance. We'll call him Scott. So I'm just saying, like, my children in order, and I'm using aliases for the people so that I'm not putting their actual business out there so that nobody knows who I'm actually talking about. Just to clear that up. Like, I'm not ashamed of my fiance. I love him to death. But there's that. People end up going behind my back and letting Joseph see our son without even asking me first. Knowing that I didn't really want him around unless I was around to make sure that my son was safe. Because he was also abusing him in ways. He wasn't doing it sexually to my son, to the best of my knowledge, but he was doing other things that could have left him disabled or potentially killed him. I ended up having my second child, a little girl. She looked whiter than me when she was born, so we assumed she was my now ex-friend with benefits child, but her pigment came in a couple weeks later on, and I still wouldn't change the fact that I carried that pregnancy and had that baby no matter what, because I love that little girl so much. I ended up getting a PFA against Joseph, covering me and my eldest child, because he was threatening to come down here, shoot me, shoot the baby, and my fiance and his entire family that was there, and take my eldest child. He also was calling me an N-word lover to our son. He was saying all these horrible things about me, all these horrible things about my daughter to our son. So I got a PFA. Come into 2022, my eldest ended up very delayed. We're still working on full answers. We do know he has hypermobility. We're working on getting a hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome diagnosis for both him and myself. We also are looking into cerebral palsy because that's what his pediatrician is also thinking, that he may have a mild case of cerebral palsy. But he starts Head Start, and that's where everything starts to get corrected a little bit. He ended up having to have AFO braces and a walker that he pulls behind himself that has a seat. He did not walk till he was 2. He did not sit or crawl until after a year old. Then 2023 hits. My fiance was not supposed to be able to have any children. He was told that he was infertile by doctors, but he went on the keto diet and ended up being fertile again. So I kept saying, no, I'm not pregnant. There's no way he's not able to have kids. Da 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 da. I must be missing my period from stress. Well, my friend bought me a pregnancy test, and within seconds after using it, it popped positive. So we were told at his anatomy scan that he had something called a hygroma, which would be cysts around the neck area or the chest, which has a fairly low survival rate. We go to a specialist and got told, no, it's not a hygroma, it's a lymphangioma. Much higher survival rate. It's just cysts around the sides and the back. So I ended up having to have a C-section with him. But come to find out after they performed the C-section that, oh, you could have had him naturally. Made me very, very mad there. But he had to spend his first month in Children's Hospital so that he could receive treatment. He's still under treatment to this day, trying to get all of that taken care of. Then last year, the woman who moved me down here and helped me through the postpartum depression and everything passed away. A few months later, we found out we were pregnant with the 4th child, which is my last. I ended up getting my tubes tied when they gave me my C-section to have her. I ended up rescuing around the same time that the woman that helped me so much passed. I ended up rescuing a pit bull with my significant other, and she ended up having pups later on that year because she was caught 2 days before she got out of heat by another pit bull that was running amok through my town. Then this year, my final child was born in January, and it was actually the day after the woman who helped me so much. It would have been her birthday the day before I had my daughter. I ended up getting my tubes tied. I moved my one friend down here so that she could help me. She ended up meeting my brother-in-law and going and being with him. Mind you, she had just gotten out of a bad relationship, which is part of why I moved her down here to help me, so that she could get out of that situation. And then she ended up conceiving a pregnancy of her own, and then she just left. My kids knew her as their aunt, and she just left without even saying goodbye to any of us. And then that's about it. That's pretty much sums you guys up. You can always email me if you guys have any requests or any questions or anything, or just leave it in the comments if you have a request for a video. But feel free to send me an email to the email that is linked to this YouTube. I'm going to start doing these again, start doing my inspirational videos again, and it's nice to be back. I love y'all. Live free. Peace out.